For many years, the world has watched a tense and dangerous game play out between Israel and Iran. This was a conflict fought in the shadows, using other groups and secret operations instead of direct confrontation. They were enemies, but they avoided fighting each other face to face, which kept a full-scale war from breaking out. This indirect struggle, known as a proxy war, defined their relationship for decades. It was a fragile balance, a known yet unspoken set of rules that, while deeply hostile, prevented the kind of direct nation-on-nation violence that could destabilize the entire Middle East. This long-standing animosity created a constant undercurrent of tension, but the lack of direct military engagement offered a thin veil of predictability in a volatile region. However, that fragile balance has been shattered. The unwritten rules have been torn apart. In the last few days, we have witnessed a dramatic and terrifying escalation. For the first time, Israel and Iran have launched direct military attacks against each other, using powerful missiles and sophisticated drones to strike targets deep inside one another's territory. This is not a proxy war anymore. This is a direct confrontation between two of the region's most powerful military forces. This shift from clandestine operations to open warfare marks a frightening new chapter in their long history of enmity. The world is now holding its breath, watching to see how far this unprecedented escalation will go. This change is incredibly significant because it raises the stakes to a level we have never seen before between these two nations. When countries attack each other directly, the risk of a small incident spiraling into a major, uncontrollable war increases immensely. Each strike demands a response, and each response can be more powerful than the last, creating a dangerous cycle of violence. The capitals of both nations, Tehran and Tel Aviv, are now directly in the line of fire. It is this directness, this open declaration of hostilities, that has sent shockwaves across the globe and put international diplomats into a state of high alert, fearing the outbreak of a wider regional conflict. The very nature of this new phase is what makes it so perilous. The shadow war had a certain, albeit risky, containment. Now, with missiles flying openly between the two countries, the conflict is out in the plain sight for all to see. It removes any deniability and forces each government to react publicly and forcefully to defend its national pride and security. This public pressure can push leaders into making decisions that are more aggressive than they might otherwise choose. The danger is that this direct conflict could quickly escape the control of the very leaders who started it, leading to consequences that no one, including the aggressors themselves, truly wants or can fully predict. The current crisis exploded into the open on Friday, June 13, 2025, when Israel launched a series of extensive and highly targeted strikes against Iran. These were not minor attacks. They were aimed at the very heart of Iran's national security infrastructure. Israeli forces targeted critical sites, including the Defense Ministry headquarters in Tehran, facilities connected to Iran's controversial nuclear program, and key energy installations. The goal was clearly to inflict significant damage on Iran's military and economic capabilities. According to reports, these strikes have resulted in over 128 deaths in Iran, a devastating toll that tragically includes at least 14 nuclear scientists and has left hundreds more wounded, among them senior security officials. Iran's retaliation was swift and it was fierce. In the hours and days that followed the Israeli attacks, Iran unleashed multiple waves of its own ballistic missiles and drone swarms. These weapons were aimed directly at major Israeli cities, including the bustling metropolis of Tel Aviv and the historic capital, Jerusalem. Air raid sirens blared across the country, forcing terrified citizens to rush into bomb shelters. The attacks have caused significant casualties and damage. Israeli officials have reported that at least 13 people have been killed and more than 380 have been injured. This direct targeting of civilian population centers demonstrates a clear and dangerous intent from Tehran to make Israeli citizens feel the cost of this conflict. A crucial and alarming aspect of this new conflict is that both sides have deliberately targeted each other's energy infrastructure. Israel's strike on Iran's South Pars gas field, a vital hub for the country's economy, hit a critical processing unit and has reportedly suspended gas production. This move was designed to cripple Iran's economic strength. In return, Iran's Revolutionary Guards announced that their missiles specifically targeted Israeli energy facilities, including an oil refinery near the city of Haifa, in an attempt to disrupt the production of fuel for Israel's powerful air force. This strategy of targeting economic lifelines adds another dangerous dimension to the conflict, threatening to cause long-term economic pain alongside immediate military damage. The human cost of this escalation is mounting rapidly, and the rhetoric from both governments is becoming increasingly severe. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has publicly declared that Iran will be made to pay a heavy price for the deaths of Israeli civilians, signaling that further military action is likely. In response, Iran has issued its own stark warning, threatening a more decisive and severe response if what it calls Israeli hostile actions continue. This exchange of threats creates a volatile atmosphere where any miscalculation could trigger an even more devastating round of attacks, pushing the two nations and potentially the entire region further down the path toward a full-blown catastrophic war. The international community is watching this rapid escalation with extreme alarm. World leaders are deeply worried that this direct conflict between Israel and Iran could spiral into a much larger war with devastating consequences for the entire globe. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has made urgent calls for an immediate de-escalation, pleading with both sides to step back from the brink and exercise maximum restraint. Similarly, French President Emmanuel Macron has been actively engaging in diplomacy, urging for a ceasefire and a return to dialogue to prevent the situation from worsening. These calls for peace highlight the global consensus that this conflict must be stopped before it grows. The response from the United States has been complex. President Donald Trump has publicly urged both Israel and Iran to make a deal for peace, adopting his characteristic transactional approach to diplomacy. However, he has also issued a stern warning to Tehran, stating that if American interests in the region are targeted in any way, the United States will respond with unprecedented force against Iran. This dual message of encouraging peace while also threatening massive retaliation adds a layer of uncertainty to the situation. It reflects Washington's difficult position of wanting to avoid a wider war while also standing firmly with its ally Israel and protecting its own strategic interests in the Middle East. A significant casualty of this military escalation has been the process of diplomacy itself, particularly concerning Iran's nuclear program. In a direct response to the Israeli strikes, Iran has officially canceled the next round of scheduled nuclear negotiations with world powers. Iranian officials have stated that it is impossible to sit at the negotiating table while their country is under direct military attack. This development is a major blow to international efforts aimed at preventing Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. The collapse of these talks removes a critical channel for communication and leaves the world with fewer diplomatic tools to resolve the underlying tensions that fuel the conflict. The fear of this conflict is also having a tangible impact on global travel and safety. Nations around the world are taking precautions to protect their citizens. The United Kingdom has advised against all travel to Israel, and major airlines like Etihad Airways have canceled flights to Tel Aviv until at least June 22nd. Meanwhile, other countries with citizens in the region, such as Russia, are preparing plans to evacuate their nationals from Iran if the situation continues to deteriorate. These travel advisories and evacuation plans are a clear sign that foreign governments believe the security situation is highly unstable and could worsen at any moment, affecting civilians from all over the world. The direct conflict between Israel and Iran is not happening in a vacuum. It threatens to pull the entire Middle East into a wider, more destructive war. The region is a complex web of alliances and rivalries, and a direct clash between two of its main powers sends dangerous ripples everywhere. One immediate area of concern is Iraq, which sits geographically between Iran and Israel. The United States-led coalition has already reported shooting down 2 Iranian drones that were flying over Iraqi airspace on their way to attack Israel. This shows that the conflict is already spilling across borders, turning neutral countries into potential battlegrounds and risking the safety of international forces stationed there. This spillover effect empowers various armed groups in the region that are aligned with Iran. For example, Kataib Hezbollah, a powerful Iran-backed militia in Iraq, has already issued a threat. The group has warned that it will resume its attacks on United States troops stationed in the country if Washington intervenes directly in the conflict on the side of Israel. This creates a dangerous dilemma for the U.S. and its allies. Any action they take to support Israel could trigger retaliatory attacks on their own forces across the region, from Iraq to Syria, potentially opening up multiple new fronts in the conflict and leading to a much broader and more complicated war. Even conflicts that were already ongoing are being affected.